Hello guys and welcome back to the History and Politics Vault with me, Ryan Gladman. Today we did a early video, but decided to do the other video a bit later, and it is the last episode of the Cold War series, so Gcse 9-1 Superpower Relations in the Cold War Edexcel History topic, episode 14, the final episode. And today we're going to be looking at the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the eventual end of the Cold War itself. But first, a last reminder, if you are interested in anything to do with the Cold War that we have talked about in the series, John Lewis Gaddis, The Cold War, is a very helpful book to summarise anything that you need to know. It offers a lot of analysis as well, a lot of in-depth detail about different parts of the Cold War from both the Soviet Union side and the US side, and lots of images to help you understand what was going on during the Cold War, lots of revealed documents that weren't actually available to many people at the time during the Cold War, but having later accessible for many people. And it's about £10 on Amazon, so it's a very good read if you're interested in the Cold War, and if this series has interested you. If you're not doing it for school-related purposes, then you could read it just for a bit of an interest if you are enjoying the Cold War topic itself. I find it very enjoyable. It was one of my most enjoyable topics I study at history in Gcse. It's probably my favourite one. I like the modern history side and politics side. So yeah, if you're interested, please read that book on Amazon, about £10. But generally, I hope you're okay. I already mentioned this earlier today, but I hope you're okay. Hopefully, in the next coming weeks, we'll be relaxing this lockdown situation a bit more, especially here in the UK. A lot of more shops and things are opening next week, or a couple of days time actually. So hopefully we'll go back to some sense of normality, but we'll see. In the meantime, we're going to do the last episode today, and first of all we're going to look at the fall of the Berlin Wall, which we had talked about in the last episode, and we actually looked at what it meant to East Germany and West Germany, but just a bit more of a summary and a recap. On the 9th of November 1989, the East German government actually announced that the border, which was the Berlin Wall, it would be opening and people would be allowed to cross into West Germany. And then because of this, people took advantage maybe of it and actually began to dismantle the wall itself, because there was really no need anymore for the wall to be in place if the border is going to be open. It was just going to be an unnecessary distraction, unnecessary obstruction to the passage of people moving from west to east and east to west Berlin. And actually, many people would have felt that they wanted to dismantle the wall because it's a massive symbol of how the communist East and the capitalist West were finally going to be trying to be reunited because of the fall of the Soviet Union. And Germany had been divided, permanently divided, since the end of World War II. And actually this is the first time that German people felt some kind of worth and actually became unified as one country. So within a few days, over 1 million people had actually had the chance to see relatives from the other side of the border and experience life in the West Berlin and West Germany, which was seen as more of a capitalist and profitable, better standard of living in the West than in the East. And actually, the West and East were formally reunited in October 1990. So in that year time, the Berlin Wall fell and the country became formally reunited as Germany in October 1990. Second point about the end of the Cold War is the collapse of the Soviet Union. So as we talked about in the last episode, there's been many revolts happening in Eastern Europe, all weakening the Soviet Union power they had in those countries. And many countries now had become broken away from the Soviet Union, and there was really no need for the Soviet Union to operate as a collective organisation anymore. And because this changed the political scene in the eastern part of Europe so much, there was a lot of opposition to Gorbachev from within the Soviet society. And in August 1991, there was an organised attempt to overthrow him, known as a coup d'état, which basically means armed rebellion or revolt against the existing government. It was defeated by someone called Boris Yeltsin, who was actually the president of the Russian Socialist Republic, who actually helped Gorbachev to defeat the uprising. And Gorbachev was just restored in his authority. However, he actually lost a lot of popularity, as he had been doing for the last couple of years, and resigned in December 1991. And because of his resignation, and there was no really coherent way forward organised within the groups that took place of his power, the Soviet Union actually split into several independent states. So different people had different ideas, so they decided to split the Soviet Union into independent states once again. So where it had formed before, it has now collapsed into different states. And actually this was the recognition that actually there was only one great superpower left in the world, and that was the US at the time. Obviously we know that China had been developing as a superpower in those years, with their existence as a superpower now. But actually at the time, the USA saw victory in the Cold War, and they saw that the collapse of the Soviet Union was their doing, and actually they influenced it in some way, so they were victorious in winning the Cold War, and they were left to be the only big superpower recognised across the globe. The third part of the end of the Cold War is the end of the Warsaw Pact itself, and what that meant for the Cold War finishing, basically. In 1989, US President Bush had declared at the Malta Conference that the Cold War was over. It wasn't actually over at the time, but he tried to enhance the progression of the Cold War being over. He tried to speed up the talks to end the Cold War, and because communism at the time wasn't actually defeated, it was still in place. And the Russian coup attack in August 1991, which aimed to overthrow Gorbachev, if that was successful, it could have remained in place for many more years. And it could have revived the rivalry it had with the West, if there was a coherent structure in place after Gorbachev. However, because of the sort of different ideas they had, the Soviet control it had in Eastern Europe as a union collapsed because they went off to the independent states. And it became obvious because of the collapse of this union, the actual pact that kept the union in place, the Warsaw Pact, couldn't remain in power, couldn't remain in existence anymore. So when Poland, then Hungary, and finally East Germany all rejected communism, the Warsaw Pact served no longer any purpose, and so the Warsaw Pact was actually formally ended in July 1991. And prior to that, actually, when the Warsaw Pact was formally ended, military cooperation, so the ability for countries to say, we'll offer you military defence if another Eastern European country is under attack, that stopped in early 1990, and that was the first step to the Warsaw Pact being formally ended in 1991. And then, because of that fall in July 1991 of the Warsaw Pact, the fall of the Soviet Union itself became evident in December 1991, which meant that the rivalry between the communist East and the capitalist West was formally ended. And many people now realise that actually the Cold War in itself was probably over. And this was the end of the Cold War in the way it had been for the last half century. Yeah, that's it really for the topic. That is the end of the Cold War. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you have learned a lot more information, or just sort of renewed your knowledge in the information you already learned in lessons, or prior knowledge you had to the topic if you don't study at school. But yeah, I find it very interesting to talk about the Cold War and its impacts it has today, especially. But if we're doing it for a school-related purpose, I hope it's really been useful to as some kind of revision guide. And yeah, that's the end of the Cold War. That's the Cold War summed up. And actually, just to let you know, the book I've been looking at to guide my notes is this revision book. So it is the Edexcel Gcse 91 History, Superpower Relations and the Cold War topic by my revision notes, actually by Hodder Education, and it was endorsed for Edexcel. So it was made for Edexcel by this company called Hodder Education. I think it's, how much is it? Does it say? No. But if you go onto Hodder Education's website, or just look on Amazon for this sort of topical book, this revision guide, I'm sure you'll find it. And if you're interested, you can read John Lewis Gaddis and then this book as well, just to go over some revision for your exams. I know there's not any this year, but next year, if you are doing exams next year, or if you are students from this year's exams, just read it for a bit of information and a bit of interest, basically. But yeah, thank you for watching this Cold War series. It's been very enjoyable. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it. Probably give a break of videos now for about 2 days or so. Got some other work to do, other different things to do at home. So probably Monday next video, but if not, I'll see you soon with some different ideas, and that's why you come into play sometimes with the comments down below. Just leave some comments about different videos you want, maybe topical videos at the moment. But in the meantime, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you again soon for whatever video I'll decide to do, basically, and any video that you suggest. Thank you for watching.